Welcome back to HF Coins World. Imagine opening an old wooden drawer in your grandparents' home. Inside, tucked beneath faded photographs, military medals, and handwritten letters, you find a small, silver-colored coin. At first glance, it doesn't seem extraordinary. It simply says, Kennedy $50, with the date 1972. Most people would slip it back into the drawer without a second thought. But collectors know that every coin has a story, and sometimes that story is worth far more than its face value. Today, we're taking a journey into one of America's most recognizable coins. Not because every 1972 Kennedy $50 is rare, but because this single year represents a fascinating chapter in American history, coin collecting, and the unexpected excitement of discovering hidden details that many people overlook. To understand why the 1972 Kennedy $50 still attracts collectors today, we need to travel back nearly a decade earlier. In November 1963, the United States was shaken by the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The nation wanted a lasting tribute to a leader whose life ended far too soon. In record time, the U.S. Mint redesigned the $50, replacing Benjamin Franklin with Kennedy's portrait. The first Kennedy $50 entered circulation in 1964, and Americans immediately began saving them as keepsakes instead of spending them. That emotional connection remains one of the biggest reasons the series continues to captivate collectors more than 60 years later. Now let's jump ahead to 1972. America was changing rapidly. NASA's Apollo missions had transformed space exploration. The Vietnam War continued to dominate headlines, and families across the country were adjusting to a new decade filled with technological progress and social change. While these historic events unfolded, millions of Kennedy $50 quietly rolled off the presses at U.S. Mint facilities. Unlike their early 1964 silver issues, the 1972 version was produced for everyday circulation using a copper-nickel-clad composition. At first glance, that may make it seem ordinary, but appearances can be deceiving. Here's where the story becomes interesting. Although the 1972 Kennedy $50 is generally common, collectors know that value often depends on much more than the date. Mint location, preservation, striking quality, and unusual mint errors can dramatically change how desirable a coin becomes. That's why experienced collectors never dismiss a coin after only a quick glance. Instead, they inspect every detail under good lighting, looking for characteristics that separate an ordinary coin from an extraordinary discovery. The Philadelphia Mint produced 1972 Kennedy $50 without a mint mark, while the Denver Mint struck coins carrying a small D mint mark near the date. Both facilities produced millions of coins, but production quality wasn't always identical. Some coins display exceptionally sharp details in Kennedy's hair, ear, and jawline, while others show softer strikes caused by worn dies. Collectors often pay attention to these subtle differences because outstanding strike quality becomes increasingly desirable in higher mint state grades. But here's something many beginning collectors don't realize. A coin doesn't need to be made of silver to become valuable. Condition often matters even more than composition. Imagine two identical 1972 Kennedy $50. One spent decades passing through cash registers, vending machines, and countless pockets. The other remained untouched inside a bankroll since the day it left the mint. Although both were produced in the same year, the pristine example could be worth many times more, simply because so few survive in exceptional condition. This brings us to one of the most exciting parts of collecting, mint errors. During the manufacturing process, even modern equipment occasionally produce mistakes. Most coins left the mint exactly as intended, but a tiny percentage escaped with unusual characteristics that collectors eagerly seek today. These may include off-center strikes, clipped planchettes, die cracks, grease-filled dies that weaken certain letters, double design elements, or other genuine mint-made anomalies. Not every unusual-looking coin is a valuable error, but authentic examples can attract strong collector interest, depending on their rarity and condition. Now imagine this real-world scenario. A retired teacher in Ohio decides to organize an old coffee can filled with $50 collected decades earlier. Most of the coins appear ordinary. Then one catches the light differently. Curious, the teacher examines it with a magnifying glass and notices an unusual striking feature unlike the others. After consulting a reputable coin dealer, the coin turns out to be an authentic mint error that collectors had been searching for. Stories like this remind us why searching through old collections remains exciting. While such discoveries are uncommon, They do happen, and that's part of what keeps the hobby alive. Another fascinating aspect of the 1972 Kennedy half dollar is how rarely many Americans encounter half dollars in everyday life today. Although they remain legal tender, half dollars are seldom used in routine transactions. As a result, younger generations often find them unusual and memorable. That simple fact has helped sustain collector interest because coins people rarely see naturally spark curiosity. If you're checking a 1972 Kennedy half dollar at home, begin with the basics. Look for the date. Identify whether it has a D mint mark or no mint mark. Examine the surfaces under bright light and avoid cleaning the coin. Cleaning may seem like a good idea, but even gentle polishing can create tiny scratches that permanently reduce collector value. Many experienced numismatists would rather own an original coin with honest age than one that has been cleaned until it shines. Now let's talk about value, carefully and realistically. Most circulated 1972 Kennedy half dollars are generally worth close to face value, although collectors may pay modest premiums for attractive examples. Coins in exceptional uncirculated condition, especially those certified with very high grades by respected grading services, can sell for significantly more. Genuine mint errors or remarkable varieties may also command higher prices, depending on rarity, demand, and authentication. However, no value is guaranteed. The coin market changes over time, and every coin should be evaluated individually based on its specific characteristics. One surprising fact that many people don't know is that some of the finest known examples of common date Kennedy half dollars are difficult to locate because relatively few survive with flawless surfaces. Even though millions were produced, finding one with virtually no marks, outstanding luster, and an exceptional strike can be surprisingly challenging. That's why collectors often compete for top-graded examples despite the coin itself being common. The psychology behind collecting is fascinating. For many people, these coins are more than metal. They represent family history, childhood memories, military service, or the excitement of searching through inherited collections. Every scratch may reflect decades of circulation. Every worn edge, another chapter in the coin's journey through American hands. That emotional connection cannot be measured in dollars alone. Today, demand for Kennedy half dollars remains strong across the United States because the series appeals to beginners and experienced collectors alike. Some pursue complete date and mint collections. Others specialize in mint errors or high-grade registry sets. Many simply enjoy preserving pieces of American history. This wide collector base helps maintain long-term interest in the series, even for years that are not traditionally considered rare. As our journey comes to an end, remember this: the 1972 Kennedy half dollar isn't famous because every example is valuable. It's memorable because it reminds us that history often hides in ordinary places. The next coin sitting quietly in a jar, an old wallet, or a forgotten family collection could teach you something about America's past or perhaps surprise you with a feature that deserves a closer look. So before you spend your next half dollar, take a moment to examine it carefully. Look at the date, study the mint mark, appreciate the craftsmanship, and remember that every coin has traveled through countless hands before reaching yours. Whether it's worth 50 cents or considerably more, the real reward is discovering the story it carries. If you enjoyed today's journey through the history of the 1972 Kennedy half dollar, be sure to subscribe to HF Coins World for more fascinating stories about America's coins, hidden varieties, mint eras, and collecting tips. And here's a challenge for you. Check your own coin jar, your family's old collections, or that forgotten box in the attic. You never know what piece of history might be waiting for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next adventure here on HF Coins World.